Hi, Barbara Grassey, the book boss here, and we are on our third and final little video for the Become a Writer Fast mini class. And today we're talking about how to fill your book. This is one of my favorite quotes from Steve Martin, who is a pretty fine novelist. I think I did pretty well considering I started out with nothing but a bunch of blank paper. Quite frankly, we all start out with nothing but a bunch of blank paper. So here's the mistake that most people make. They start writing without getting organized first. And that creates a lot of wasted effort. They'll write and write and write, and they'll look and they'll have 12 pages, and they're thinking, oh, how am I ever going to get enough material to fill a book? Well, that brings us to the question, how long should your book be? Someone once asked Abraham Lincoln, how long should a man's legs be? And he replied, long enough to reach the ground. And what he meant was, long enough to do the job. They should just be functional. Doesn't matter what the length is as long as it takes care of what you need to have them do. And it's the same way with a book. It should cover the topic thoroughly, and it should do the job it sets out to do, whether it's teaching or sharing or expounding upon your philosophy. But you don't have to fill it with fluff. It doesn't need to be any longer than it takes to do these first two things. So here's a more definitive answer because I know everyone's like, oh, that's great, but how long should the book be? Thanks for that cute little story, Barb. Well, most nonfiction books are in the 40 to 60,000 word range. Some are short and sweet. Parable books are usually much shorter. They can be in the 20 to 30,000 word range. And some books are absolute tomes. You would get a hernia trying to lift them. But here's what I look at. I look for a minimum page count of about 100 pages, and there's a very practical reason for that. You need 100 pages in order to have printing down the spine of your book. You know that nice little thing with your title and the author on there? That makes the book look more professional. And quite frankly, you need at least 100 pages to me to have a book that covers what you're talking about. If you can't fill 100 pages, it might not be a full book. So where do you find the content? Start with what you already have. You've probably written blog posts or articles that you can use. If you've done webinars or teleconferences, you can have the audios sent off to a transcription company and get those written out for you. If you have workbooks that you've given to people or handouts or downloads that you have for people, those might be incorporated into your book. Videos work the same way as webinars and teleconferences. Take the audio from the video, send it to a transcription company, and get that written word. And of course, if you're in your field, you have probably done some sort of research. You've gone to classes, you've taken notes, you've looked things up, you've investigated it. So yes, you've done research and you probably have that lying around. And let's talk a little bit about the research because you may have to do additional research and you probably should. Now, you could interview other experts in related fields or in various aspects of your field. Some people's books are just a collection of interviews. You might use them just to add to your book. The other thing you can do is conduct your own polls or do a survey or a study. And doing that creates new data. You're coming up with something nobody else has done before. And that will increase your standing and your credibility. You can do any of this yourself or you can outsource it. So don't sit there and go, oh no, how am I ever going to get this all done? A lot of people outsource studies and polls. They have companies that actually do that for you. So it's not a big deal to have somebody else do that aspect of it for you. Let's talk a little bit about organization and structure because that's really the foundation of your book. Nonfiction books usually fall within three types: procedural, principles and philosophies, or a parable book. The procedural is basically you explaining a process or a system. It's laid out in a logical order. It could be step by step. It could be chronological. And some examples of this are The 12-Week Year or Getting Things Done by David Allen. Great books, both of them. Now, the principles and philosophy is a little bit different. This type of book lays out your business philosophies and outlines your business principles. And it uses examples from your business and from your own experience, your journey, to illustrate your principles or how or why you do things. And in there, you can talk about things that worked and things that didn't work, because quite frankly, we learn a lot from the things that don't work. And some examples of a principles and philosophy book would be The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People or The 4 Agreements. Those are definitely philosophy books. They're telling you, this is what I believe, these are the principles that I live by, and here's why. Now, parable books have a storyline that illustrates the principles you're trying to teach. These are harder to write because you have a fictional element. There's an actual storyline that's involved, and you have to be a little bit more creative to write these books. But they're very popular because of that storyline. Stories are easy for people to read and to remember. Some really good examples of parable books would be The E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber, which is one of my all-time favorite business books. And that's not a short book. That's a kind of a lengthy book for a parable book. The Go-Giver, we talked about that in the last video by Bob Berg. Who Moved My Cheese? A book that is so short you could read it while standing in the stacks at the bookstore. And it just goes to show you, you do not have to have a huge long book in order to have a best-selling book. So which should you choose? Should you write a procedural, which is a straight-out how-to? Do you want to share your principles and philosophies? Or do you want to be creative and do a parable book? And now parable books are subjective, and it depends on your personality and topic. Not all topics lend themselves to parable books. And it may depend on your target audience. If you have a target audience that's younger or maybe has a shorter attention span, parable book might be the way to go. But the important thing is your structure gives you something to hang your content on. It helps map out where you're going to put your information. And yes, of course, there's a cute kitty picture in this one too. They're so fuzzy when they're little. So let's get down to the actual writing. You can talk your book. 6 hours of recorded time gives you about 40,000 words. That's a lot of words. You can sit in a chair and write, and this is tougher for some. It's easier for other people. We call that bum glue. You glue your bum to a chair and you don't get up until you're done. And you can always hire it out. That's expensive and it's not nearly as satisfying as writing the book yourself. I want to tell you a little bit about this client of mine because he wanted to write the story of his grandfather. And his grandfather was a ship's captain in the early 1900s off the coast of New England. And he was going up the channel in the fog one day, sounding his foghorn, doing everything he was supposed to do. And there was another ship in the channel, and he ended up ramming that ship. For some reason, the signals got crossed, and he put his bow right midships into the other ship. And as he was pulling his ship out, he realized that if he pulled his ship out of the other ship, it would sink. So he went full engines ahead, and he kept his bow plowed into the side of that ship. And he managed to get it off the main shipping channel onto the shore, and he managed to get all the people off the other ship and rescued everybody. And the story really is, one, it was very smart of him to realize that, but two, all the passengers got together and they awarded him a silver loving cup. And he liked to say, "I'm the only captain I know of who's wrecked a ship and gotten a silver loving cup for it." It's a great story, but it's a really, really short story. And this gentleman wanted a book. He had people in historical societies that would be interested in it, so he had a market for it. But he didn't have a book. He had a short story. So we got together, and I showed him, and it's one of the things that I show my clients and my students who take the course, how to spoke your topic to get all the back information that really rounds out a story. So we looked at things like who the shipping companies were back then. We found out that the moguls, the robber barons, were all edging each other out to control transportation in New England. We found out about fog and how sound carries in the fog and what the communication systems were on ships. We found out women and children first was a very new concept at that time. It used to be that it was sailors first and good luck to anybody else. So we did all this background work. We looked at where he grew up. We looked at the fact that young boys as young as 8 were sent out to fish, and they came up through shipping, and some of these sea captains were quite young when they got command of their ships. So we rounded out the entire story, and in doing so, he talked to a relative who turned out to have a treasure trove of pictures from that era. And this is one of the pictures. This is his actual grandfather, and that ended up being the cover of the book. So the book was a slim story that really became a full book, and that was the joy of research. So yes, you probably have enough content, to fill your book. Stop saying you're going to write a book someday. There are 7 days in the week, and someday ain't one of them. I work with people like you. You know you need a book for your business. You're knowledgeable. You know what you're talking about. And you want to share that knowledge with others. That makes sense. But my time is limited. I can work with fewer than 10 book clients a year, and quite frankly, not everyone can afford my services. So really, you've got some options here. You can quit. It's too hard. You don't have time. Maybe you don't really need a book. Maybe you don't want to be the leader in your field. Or you can try to go alone. You can do this alone. It's possible. There's nothing that says you can't write a book. It might take longer. It might be a little bit harder, but you can do it. You can hire a ghostwriter, and as we discussed, that can get pretty expensive. You won't have the same satisfaction as writing your own book, and it might not be the book that you want. Or, you could use my system and write it yourself in only 90 days. I have actually developed the system over 10 years of writing books, and I can show you how to write your book step by step, and it's exactly the same process that I use when I write for my private clients. There's 6 video modules, and they help you step by step get things done that you need to get done. So each module has a written component. There's a manual that goes with this. There's a video module for you. There's an audio component because a lot of people like to listen. Some people like to watch. Some people like to read. Everybody learns in different ways. I also have downloadable worksheets for you so that you can download the worksheet, you can fill them out, you can organize your book. So here's what you're going to learn. In Module 1, we talk about structure and organization. And first off, is your book viable? Are enough people interested in your topic to make it worth writing your book? So we learn how to estimate the demand for your book. And we also find out exactly what your target market wants and doesn't want in a book. I've got a sneaky little trick that will show you what people like, what they don't like, what they thought was worthwhile, what they think is just useless information. We also talk different structures for nonfiction books and how to decide on which structure is best for you. And we've got a little bit into that in this video. Parable, procedures, policies, and philosophy. Those are 3 different types of structures that you can use. We'll go into it in more depth in Module 1. The second module is how to outline your book and create your chapter topics, your chapter subtopics. We're going to go through all the questions and topics that you're going to cover specifically, and then you'll end up with a list of things that need further research. Module 3, you actually create your first draft. We get down to the actual writing, and I show you how to work with raw material and the 3 ways to write your book: old school, outsourcing, and of course, my favorite, the easy way. Now, when you're done with Module 3, you'll have your actual first draft. 90% of your book is done. So now we get into the editing, and here's where you really polish your book. We're going to talk copy editing and line editing, what the differences are and why they're both important. We're going to show you how to polish your first draft into final form, and then we'll show you how to incorporate the images, graphs, charts, and links. And you're going to want links in your book because you want to bring people to your website. And we'll talk about that a lot in that module. Now, the 5th module is prepping for publication. This is where we do all the extra material. I kind of count the miscellaneous module because we're adding in all those ancillary pages that you see in professional books, the dedication and acknowledgments, the copyright and disclaimer pages, your author bio and headshot. Yes, you've got to write an author bio. I'm so sorry. And your back cover copy and blurbs. We talk about how to get blurbs. Module 5 is really where you tie up all the loose ends, putting in all that ancillary matter, and you're getting it in one place in the right order. Which leaves us to Module 6, publishing your book. Yay! So, self-publishing versus a traditional publisher, which way should you go? We talk about what print on demand is and why it's so fantastic and how it's changed the industry. How to get your cover done and the interior layout. We talk about ISBNs, the International Standard Book Number, and barcodes. You may or may not need that, but we talk about what they are and how to get one. So from your first draft to publishing, you're going to get all the guidance that you need. And you don't need to reinvent the wheel. I've done it all for you. It took me 10 years to work out the system, And at this point, we've got it down pat. So you'll have your book written and you'll be able to crack open the champagne. That's actually my favorite part of writing a book. So you get my entire system. You get the manual. You get the video, the audio, and you get the downloadable worksheets. But there's more. Of course there's more. There's always bonuses. Have you noticed that? One of the things I do and people have found so helpful is that I do a live Q&A session every month. It's a teleseminar. If you can't be on it, you can email in your questions. I'll answer them on the teleseminar. But I also give you email support. You get 90 days of email support. So if you get stuck, if you have a question, if you're not sure of something, just shoot a quick email over to me and I'll return that email with a good answer within 24 business hours. You also get the marketing guide. And I like this because marketing is really the second half of your job. Writing the book is the first part, marketing it is the second part. We talk about why you need to build a platform, how to collect contact information, even if you're selling on Amazon, real slick, and using free downloads to jumpstart your sales. That's just a few of the things that we cover in the marketing guide. But don't take it from me. This is one of my favorite clients, Lydia Trotter. She put together a book on eBay marketing, and one of the things we realize is that when you're doing a book on internet stuff, it changes rapidly. So I helped her get her manual together. We broke down the information. We did screenshots because hers was very much a procedural, how you do this. And we did quick start guides for her. And then we also managed to put in an updating component for her work. And that was just back and forth talking. And she wrote a great book on that. She's probably one of the more motivated people that I've worked with. She's a real doer. And the people that I work with, the people who write their own books, people like you, they're doers. So here's a special offer. If you go to my website right now, barbaragrassey.com, write book 90 days, you're going to see that this is on the site for $797. You will not, I'm not making that up. It's been out there. That's what I sell this course for. But you've gone through the 3 videos. You're obviously interested. You've gotten this far. We have a get it now price, and it's only $497. It's a great discount. If you've been thinking about writing your book, you're still not sure, now's the time to get started. We've got the price slashed to $497, and it's just everything you need to go from your idea to a published book and get it done in 90 days or less. You've made it this far. You've completed this 3-video training. You know that you want to write your book. You're ready to get started. So go ahead, get started. The secret of getting ahead is to get started. And you've probably heard the sentiment in a number of different ways. You don't have to be great to get started, but you have to get started to be great. Or the way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. Well, yeah, motivation gets you started. This course will help you stay on track to reach your goal, your book written, published, and out in the world. You get my entire system for only $497. And let's recap what you get. You get the 6-module course, the audios, the videos, the manuals, the worksheets. You get organization and structure, outlining your book, creating your first draft, editing, prepping for publication, and the actual publishing module. Plus you get all the bonuses. How to write your author bio, the book marketing guide, the free email support, the monthly Q&A. Quite frankly, it's time to tell your story. Take the lead in your industry. Book more speaking engagements. Expand your reach. Help more clients. Click the Get It Now button below and get started today. My entire course for only $497. Get started, get it done. And congratulations. You're about to become a published author.